Hello and welcome to Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly, and in this week's episode we're looking at the top 5 hardy American palms to grow in the UK climate. And at number 5 on my list of hardy American palms is Rapidophyllum Histrix from the USA. This palm is very slow growing, but it's on my list because it's extremely hardy and it doesn't get too big. So it's great if you've only got a small garden or a small space to fill. Eventually it'll grow a sort of a multi-clumped palm with many heads of growth, sort of 2 meters by 2 meters, something like that. But it does this over many years. So a bit like European fan palm in that respect. But it's hardy, reputedly hardy in some locations in the USA, down to -20 or so. So it makes it the hardest, or if not one of the hardest palms in the world. But in the UK it's more -10, -12, something like that, but can be damaged at a bit warmer temperatures, so -6 to -8 can sometimes damage the heads, but it won't kill it outright. So one of the hardest palms, but very slow growing. And like I said, it's just easy to look after. All you need to do is grow it in partial shade to full shade, because if you grow it in full sun you can bleach the leaves. So if you want nice dark green leaves, grow it in the shade. Unusual because most palms like sun, full sun, but this one likes more shade, but it likes a warm location as well. So near a house wall or south facing with some filtered light, with some other plants growing in front of it, so it doesn't get too much direct sun, and then you get a nice bushy green palm tree. And at number 4 we have this beauty of a palm. This is a Bootea. This is Bootea aerospatha, which means sort of woolly spathe or woolly flower bud basically. But why this is number 4 is because it's a great doer in the garden. It is proved to be very hardy without any damage whatsoever, down to -7, might even go a bit colder without showing any damage, which is great for a feather palm. And it's got a real deep bright green colour on all the leaves. You sometimes get a bit of spotting, but basically it just gets on with it. It's not the fastest growing palm in the world, but it spreads out quite widely, a good 2 meters wide. And once it gets going, once it's happy, it will put out lots of leaves every year, and it doesn't get hit back by frost at all unless it gets terribly cold for a long time. So nice hardy-ish palm, great colour, and one that will suit sort of part shade to full sun. Main requirement for this palm is lots of water. Give it lots and lots of water and you'll be rewarded with lots of new growth. So this is why Bootea aerospatha is at number 4. So at number 3 we have another feather palm and another Bootea, and this one is Bromeliad Odorata, often sold as Bootea capitata, which is a real species, but a very rare species. But for whatever reason, Odorata is more often not sold as capitata. But this is Odorata. It is a very robust feather palm, very strong, thick leaves, and it grows big. It will grow wide, it will grow tall, and it bulks up pretty quickly. So this was a small plant where the trunk, or the pre-trunk basically, it was about as big as my fist 10 years ago, and now it's got a trunk nice and wide, and it's starting to develop sort of upward momentum and starting to grow upwards rather than outwards. But it's a great plant. -6, -7, it'll start showing damage at that sort of temperature quite often, but this has not shown any damage last winter at -7. So -7, -8, you're sort of pushing it if you get a long period of that sort of nature, that sort of temperature. But it's just a great palm, light aerospatha, but a lighter colour, more robust, thicker leaves, are wind resistant, again likes a lot of water, but it will grow into a very large palm indeed after many years. But even at a relatively young age like this one, so this one's about probably 15 years from seed, it's already taller than me, so it's well over 2 meters tall, 2 meters wide, and it's just a great palm. Doesn't need much feeding at all, and it just stays healthy as long as it's got free draining soil that's kept relatively moist in summer. Then it will do really well. It does need full sun, so this is facing south, and it will just reward you again like the Euspatha, lots and lots of very nice green leaves. And at number 2 we have the Mexican fan palm. That is Brea amata, with the steely blue silvery leaves that just loves the baking sun, and it's pretty slow growing, but it's pretty hardy as well. Comes from Mexico, and it likes a good root run where you can get into some nice sort of deep water supply. So although it likes really good free draining soil, so it can be grown in quite a lot of sort of gritty soil and sandy soil, it needs to get its roots down into some water because it loves lots of water as well. So give it the sunniest spot possible. Here I've got it in my arid bed where there's really good drainage, but then lots of clay soil underneath where it can get its roots down into to get that water, and it grows lots of leaves per year. Although it doesn't grow huge quickly, once it's established and it's not rocking about, it will grow between 5 and 8 leaves a year, something like that, when it's sort of small. Now this one I've had for 10 years. Again, I got it with basically no trunk at all, and now it's got a nice big wide trunk, and it's starting slowly to move upwards as well as get a bit wider. This is about 2 meters across now, and it's about 1.5 meters tall, and it's produced already, after this rubbish winter we had, 3 leaves, nice steely blue colour like I said, with that silver sheen, and that's to protect it against a really hot sun. Not that we get a lot of that here in Yorkshire, but it does well, like I said, in nice hot spots, and you'll get these amazing coloured leaves. And if you do get to grow this to a much bigger size, it will flower, and the flowers absolutely out of this world. Huge long branches of flowers that sort of swamp the plant. I haven't seen that myself yet, but hopefully give it 20-30 years, this one will start flowering. So this is number 2 for my American hardy palms. And at number 1 in my best American hardy palms to grow in the UK climate, it had to be Jabea chilensis, the Chilean wine palm. Comes from Chile in South America. This is an absolute beast of a palm. It grows absolutely huge, probably the widest trunk you can get on a palm tree, and it's slow growing, but it's really rewarding to grow because it's very hardy down to -10. It's been known to come back from -15 with a lot of damage, but without any damage at all, you're looking at sort of -7, -8. Lower than that, you'll start getting damage, but you might not lose a plant. I've grown this big one for many years. I did buy it as quite a big palm because it's very slow growing. But I do have a smaller palm in the front garden that I bought as a small palm. Again, about as big as my fist, the start of a trunk when I bought it, and now it's grown much larger. Again, still slow growing, but it's putting out, the small one, about 3 to 5 leaves per year. And then this big specimen here, this is putting out between 5 and 10 leaves a year because it's pushing out about 4 leaves at a time. And it's huge, so you need to give this lots and lots of space. Don't plant it at the edge of a border or right next to a wall, because the trunk on this can be 2 meters wide. It'll grow 10 meters tall, and the leaves itself will be about 4 meters wide once it's established itself. So give it lots of room. Feed it in spring with a bit of bloodfish and bone, and apart from that, you can just let it get on with itself. It will just grow. It doesn't need any extra watering, but it will appreciate extra watering in summer. But to be honest, this one doesn't get irrigated at all. There's no sprays or hose pipe on this one. It just gets whatever rain falls on it. It's grown in very free draining soil for the first sort of 30 to 50 centimetres. Then it's heavy clay, and then it's just solid clay underneath that. So when it gets its roots down, it'll be into a good water supply down there, even if it's been baking dry for weeks on end. And it's appreciating the hot weather we've got at the moment. So full sun is essential for this palm to grow well. And like the other palms we've shown in this video, It's not fussy about winter hardiness, it just gets on with it. You don't need to give it too much special attention, doesn't need wrapping or anything like that once it's established, and it will just get bigger and bigger as the years progress. Will take probably 30-40 years for the trunk to stop getting wider and actually start growing up, so it's definitely one to plant for future generations if you've got a small specimen, but it does give a big impact even as a small plant. And the leaves are like thick plastic, they're really robust, really hard. Each leaf themselves are well over 2 meters long, and like I said, when it gets to this sort of size, so this is about, well, when the leaves are going up, it's about 2.5 to 3 meters tall now. It just pushes out so many leaves, and it always looks nice and healthy whatever the weather. So number one in my American hardy palms is Jubaea chilensis. I wouldn't be without it in the garden. There's probably a few American palms that didn't make the cut, and you're probably surprised to not see them here. Probably the main one is Washingtonia robusta or filibuster or filifera. Washingtonias are great palms, extremely fast growing, but they're simply not hardy. They need too much protection, too much work in most of the UK. Again, in the coast, inner cities, you might get away with it, but for general maintenance of a palm in most of the UK, it's a lot of protection needed to get it through winters. So Washingtonia didn't make my top 5. And the other palm that is commonly grown is the Sabals or Sables, quite a lot of different species, and the reason that didn't get my top 5 is because although it's pretty hardy, some of them is extremely slow growing. You need 30 plus degrees for this plant to actually start moving and showing that it's actually growing. So because it's such a slow growing palm and you often lose more leaves due to old age than are replaced by new leaves, that's why all the Sabals, however you want to pronounce it, didn't make my top 5. So that's my top 5 American palms. Are there any palms on that list that surprise you? Do you grow all these palms, some of these palms, or do you think you'll grow these palms in the future? If you like the content of this video and others, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching this edition of Exotic Gardening UK. Join me next week, we'll be doing more in the garden.